Welcome, my friends, to the arcane escalators of the mortal realms, because today we are talking about Realmgates. Now, I did a video about Realmgates a long time ago, but a lot has changed, or I should probably say added, about the Realmgates, and so it's time to take a second and revisit this foundational bit of Age of Sigmar lore, world building, and setting design. One thing I want to add up here, if you are interested in a topic being explored, please leave it in the comments down below. I'll show it off, give you credit, and it helps me come up with future topics. But back to Realmgates. Simply put, this is a series of travel portals that span each of the mortal realms and threading them together. You walk in one side, and it's typically described as like a tunnel of light that's fairly short, and when you walk out the other end, boom, you are way further than you could have ever gotten on foot in that time, or by sky, or water, or whatever. Now that's what all Realmgates have in common conceptually, but there's a lot more to unpack because as we've seen through various Age of Sigmar books from Black Library, as well as campaign supplements, Realmgates are quite vast. So if you're joining us in Age of Sigmar with 4th edition and you're trying to figure it out, first of all, welcome. You should know that the very first season or narrative arc or edition of Age of Sigmar was called the Realmgate Wars. And they were considered mysterious places of near unfathomable importance for conquering or reclaiming the realms, which of course was Sigmar's whole plan when this thing started. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. Imagine if a magical Stargate opened up in DC, Moscow, Beijing, and Pyongyang, and all of those nations could freely walk into one another. You better believe that that would unsettle the balance that things are in right now. At least, I think that's a diplomatic way of saying it. Because these are all new attack vectors, they're places to defend, the dynamic of your relationship changes when you're not separated by great distances. Well, if you're Archaon the Everchosen and your job is to conquer the mortal realms, or you're Sigmar and your goal is to reclaim them and defend them, if your plans don't incorporate this system of travel, it's going to hurt. So they've always been pivotal in why an army can thematically be in anywhere, from anywhere, which is awesome freedom narratively. It's also, here I want to note that not all of the Realmgates locations are known. There are still hidden ones that are being found all the time. So my point in saying that is, it's very difficult to take and hold and defend a piece of territory in the mortal realms. Archaon designed his entire, fortress, his home within the mortal realms, the Varanspire, at its location because it sits at the center of a Realmgate to each of the mortal realms. The end of the Realmgate Wars was the conclusion to who had control over which Realmgates. And so, like I said, it's worth focusing on a bit, and now we're going to start to extrapolate a bit more into the mechanisms of the Realmgate system. One thing becomes immediately apparent as you read some of the older Black Library books. Specifically, there was a series of novels that came out with the Realmgate Wars. We get the idea that not all of these gates or bridges are stable two-way bridges all the time. Some are, and those are highly prized because of it. A great example is Hammerhall. It's a stable two-way gate. You go in one side, you come out the other, you turn around, you walk, and you come right back where you went in. This allows them to leverage the best resources of each realm to survive both. But those are prized simply because they are somewhat uncommon. Some realm gates are one way. You walk up to this place of power, it fires you at a destination that may or may not be fixed, and when you try to turn around, there's nothing there. Some gates exist on both ends, but are one way each. So you go through realm gate A, you come out the other side of B, you turn around immediately, go right back through B, and you pop out at a third location you didn't even know was there. Some realm gates can split. So if you walk in at point A, you could either end up at point B or C. Some gates have a mechanism to control this, or basically we get the idea that scholars have come out to kind of examine the realm gates and see what kind of works on them, and have come up with a system to kind of control the flow of traffic. So there are realm gates where you can be like, where are you going? X place, and they'll twist a lever or something like that, and now the realm gate fires you there. And as you think about the magnitude of this, tens of thousands of realm gates, all with these either synchronous or asynchronous kind of directions that they move in, how they link together, you can see why I like the analogy of thread. tying all the realms together, because it would look like a wondrous pattern of stitching if you could visualize it. So that's a little bit of, we'll say, disparity when it comes to the destination or the travel ease of using a realm gate. However, there's also another problem, and that is actually finding them, because they can look like just about anything. Because all the stuff that we've talked about as far as where you go in and where you come out, that's all like the internal mechanisms of the thing, but not what it looks like. And we used to have a model for the Realmgates, and I loved it, to be honest. I wish I had gotten a set. I always look at used mini sales, that kind of stuff, to see if I can score a set. But it's important to know that this is just one example of what a Realmgate can look like, specifically one that's designed to work on our tabletops. Because we have several examples from various Black Library books and campaigns that illustrate that the structure of a Realmgate can vary just as much as the realms themselves. We'll start with a really obvious one, the size and scale. Yes, there is the miniature for a Realmgate terrain piece that can fit a Stormcast Eternal widthwise, and they can walk through as a unit in kind of a weird conga line. Then there's the Realmgate in Hammerhall, connecting the Realm of Life to the Realm of Fire. It's big enough for an entire army ranked up in shield walls, shoulder to shoulder, to walk through in a battle formation. It's big enough that at the same time they're doing that, they can channel water through a massive aqueduct system they've built to flow through the Realmgates, which delivers Aqua Guiaranis from the Realm of Life to the Realm of Fire. And it's so tall that while those two things are happening, up above in the sky, also passing through the Realmgate, are prosecutors and Kharadron overlords that are flying between the realms above them. Yes, the Realmgate miniature that we put on the table and the Hammerhall one share the same basic physical structure, like an arch or a henge that has some kind of portal you walk through, but their scales are wildly different, and I will say, there are way more fun-looking Realmgates. In the Dawnbringer campaigns that ended the last edition, there was a Realmgate that was a colossal flower, and you had to run towards the center of it. Some are caves that blend seamlessly into the mountains, so you think you're stepping into doing some cave diving. You don't even realize that you've walked into a Realmgate, and then you try to turn around and there's no exit because you're on some other place. You just couldn't tell because the cave changed. Some Realmgates are underwater, acting as natural whirlways to keep the currents flowing between the realms. The Iden of the Deepkin use this quite a bit. Some exist in the sky, almost like static clouds, and the Kharadron overlords can fly into them and end up far from home. One of these things is sort of like a disc, like imagine a CD, but it's lodged in the mouth of a god beast over in Gur. So good luck if you accidentally get spit out of it. You're in the mouth of a god beast, or if he's about to eat you, you better hope that things are safer on the other end. Lastly, one in Gairan is a colossal waterfall. Think Niagara Falls if the power was so intense that it tore open a wormhole. That's a lot of examples, but you get my point here, right? It can look like a lot of things and exist at a lot of different scales, which is perfect for us as hobbyists. If you want a killer display board, make yourself a creative Realmgate. And it's fun because it also became a sticking point in some of those earlier books too. Like, you know, if you're stationed at a fort, we understand how to defend a fort, or if there's a particular portal like the terrain piece, we understand that. But defending a waterfall poses unique challenges logistically. Same thing for the gate that's in a god beast's mouth. Some of these chaos forts were easier to take back during the Realmgate Wars for the forces of order because it's hard to defend them. And when Alariel came in full steam, the Guiaran one just kind of crashed. No matter how big they are or what they physically look like, they've always been important. I've gone on and about how integral they were for the opening of the Age of Sigmar narrative, but as I mentioned at the top, they've been expanded since then. So Chapter 1 of the overall narrative of Age of Sigmar was the Realmgate Wars. Chapter 2 was the Soul Wars, and really the only thing relevant to Realmgates here is that a bunch of them went haywire and flickered when the Necroquake rolled over the setting. It was a big wave of death magic, and if you were traveling through a Realmgate when it hit one of the ends of the gate, a lot of people were lost. They essentially power flickered off the entire system, so if you were in it, you were lost. Whatever the network of Realmgates is made of, that event made it blink. Then, in 3rd edition, that was the era of the beast, and the real significance of the Realmgates here in modern AOS was first displayed in 3rd edition. Long story short, the Seraphon target a silver tower of Tzeentch, and when it crash lands, it does so on a Realmgate, which begins almost a detonation plan. Now, the value and significance of these gates has been illustrated in this video, hopefully, so not many factions, as you can imagine, are experimenting with blowing them up, right? It's much more useful to Archaon to have a way to deliver his armies than to just kind of see what happens if you blow them up. But what happens is essentially an arcane blast that can ripple to either other local gates in your immediate area or the gates that it's connected to on the other end. Which made this scene in the books epic, by the way, because I didn't know that they could blow up. That's a heck of a self-destruct button. But watching these events, watching that silver tower start an accidental chain detonation here, was the Skaven. And a most clever plot and scheme was set in motion. If you want to see the details for that, I have a video about the Skaven tide below, go check it out. But again, to greatly oversimplify, the Skaven poisoned and rigged a chain of Realmgates to explode all around the mountain ranges in the north side of Hammerhall, just north of Hammerhall, actually in the Realm of Fire. This became the climax of the Dawnbringer Crusades. At the very end of 3rd edition, the button is pressed, a mountain range detonates, an entire ring of Realmgates fire off one after another, essentially unthreading reality just a bit, just enough for the tip of Vermin City to pierce through its home from the realm of chaos into the mortal plane. A stable mouth for hell itself to flood the mortal realms in Skaven. So again, relevant now as we move into 4th edition, because that's the explosion that kicked off this current event and narrative arc called the Hour of Ruin. And so at this point, we've seen Realmgates conquered by order, damaged by death, weaponized by chaos, and destruction over here is just having a great time as always, running through them at full speed for laughs, getting them stuck in mouths, whatever. So as I like to end all my videos, I just want to simply ask, why are these cool? What do they add to the actual setting? Why do they matter? Well, I feel like when Age of Sigmar was first being pitched to us, right, as consumers, I feel like initially they were a really great narrative way to have every army reasonably fight every other army. So like when I briefly played Fantasy Battles, I got in like 3 months before AOS dropped. But sometimes I found it hard to construct a story as to why X army would be fighting, Y enemy. Why would they ever contact one another? Yes, they're great fantasy properties. How did we get here? Having a gateway system that interlocks the setting makes this infinitely larger world feel smaller in a good way, because it means that no one exists in a vacuum. Everyone would have an opportunity to engage with other factions. And I like that. I'm into it, right? The equivalent in 40k is something like space travel. We have a way to get from point A to point B to have all these factions interact. I am here for it. And if Fantasy Battles never went away and all of a sudden just a bunch of Realmgates popped up all over the old world, I would have been into that too, because I think it's a cool device. Regardless, I love that they have remained interesting, not just in their abilities, but also how they look and function. They can be very interesting to read about in the Black Library books. They never lack significance. They're always worth fighting for, so you get some great stories from good guys and bad guys. For example, Call of Archaon, the series, has several Chaos Lords finding weird realm gates and having to run through them. It's just great stuff. So I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think of realm gates? Do you like the evolution of them? I mean, they kind of didn't do much during 2nd, but they really brought it home with 3rd and obviously now 4th. And do you think that there should be an official realm gate model? We already have the Stormcast Eternal Outhouse. That's functionally the same thing, but I'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll catch you in my next Age of Sigmar video. Happy wargaming, friends.